Okay, so our next question is, what is the rule for asking a customer to consider taking down a bad review? The review is based on Amazon checking in and sending the wrong product and also the product being damaged, which it absolutely wasn't when it left our warehouse. Okay, there's a few things to break down here. The first is that Amazon has a policy to only remove reviews that break their two main policies. The first is that it's fraudulent or in some way a counterfeit review. So someone faked the review in order to hurt your account, but they didn't actually buy the product. They don't actually have any basis for their evaluation of your product. That's considered a counterfeit or fraudulent review. The other reason they'll take it down is if it is in some way abusive or offensive. So if someone uses a bunch of swear words or they are talking about your family in certain ways or saying various really offensive things, then they'll take it down. Otherwise, they do not take down reviews, period. I know that's really frustrating, but that is the reality of how Amazon treats reviews. So the second part, the product being damaged, which it wasn't when it left the warehouse, keep in mind that Amazon does not package sufficiently externally for anything that comes in. So you basically have to meet Amazon's requirements for shipping before it even gets into the FC. So typically what I recommend is making sure that your product packaging is tested to the ISTA 6 Amazon standard. So they actually have a specific standard that they worked on with ISTA, to make sure that packaging was sturdy enough to withstand Amazon's crazy requirements. Excuse me. So the main problem with Amazon's issues in terms of shipping is that they put a whole bunch of stuff on top of itself when they're about ready to ship it out in things called gaylords. They stack things up. They don't worry about how things are put into boxes. So basically you have a situation where your product could go through quite a lot of abuse and damage before it makes it to the customer just by going through the Amazon system. So definitely use the ISTA 6 standard. Amazon created that with ISTA to where if a package is passing that standard, it will be fine going through Amazon. It's a tough standard to meet, but that's where you need to go to for making sure that your product will actually get through the Amazon system. Okay? All right. The next question was from Tony. And Tony says, I downloaded the category listing report in Excel, but when I tried to import the data into Google Sheets on 2 different computers, I kept getting an error message. Any feedback on how to make that report work for me? Follow-up question, what is the best way to use the data and make changes to existing ASINs? Okay, so here's the bad news. If you have a lot of ASINs, the category listing report is a huge file. Basically, it's so big that Google Sheets can't handle it. So that's the problem. It's not so much there's a problem with the file, it's that it's so big and there's a whole bunch of built-in macros and built-in drop-down menus and such, fields that are protected and so on, that it's a really big file. And so if you try to download it and then upload it directly into Google Hangouts, then you have this problem of potentially not working. That's just the reality of it. So the follow-up question, what is the best way to use the data and make changes to the existing ASINs? So you basically just do it in a spreadsheet format and then make sure that for, excuse me, for your upload process that you're using a partial update. It's really easy, really easy to override content if you're not careful. So be really careful with spreadsheet updates and make sure that you have not accidentally put blanks in where your bullets are, because you can literally erase all your bullets. So be careful of that. If it's a minor change, it's easiest to do it directly through the UI. I totally understand not doing it that way though. We have multiple apparel clients where doing it in bulk is really the only reasonable option. Okay, we have another question about Seller Central Campaign Manager. At the end of the list of campaigns, there's a note, campaign status is current, but other campaign data could be delayed up to 12 hours. Has something changed regarding the data delay, or how should I understand this? Is the data in search term reports still delayed up to 2 days? Okay, so it's always been delayed, for one thing. And for some reason, it does it like based on GMT or something, so it gives you half of the data, not even half, it's like 8 hours of the sales data for the day. And then the other 16 hours or so you have to wait till tomorrow to get. So what'll happen is it'll show you the most recent information on how much you're spending, but it won't show you how much you're actually getting until you get the full update, which of course could happen tomorrow. At the same time each day, it's like 8 a.m. Pacific or something like that. So just keep that in mind, that you're always delayed on the campaign manager, so don't use the most recent day's data until the next day. Okay, so as far as the search term reports being delayed up to 2 days, yes, absolutely. And the reason why is because all of the data from sales gets copied into the internal data warehouse, and then that gets vended in reports, pre-done reports, to you as the marketplace seller. So there's a couple of steps that happen there. Technically speaking, it's only delayed by 1 day, but sometimes they're making changes to the data, or there's some reconciliation errors that they're fixing. And so generally 2 days is best, but they do say it's only 1 day delay on those reports. I just sometimes have seen some reconciliation changes and some detail changes after 1 day. Okay, next question. Isn't the Amazon Influencers Program a double standard? What's your opinion on this program? The Amazon Influencers Program is a program for people who have their own channels or who have their own following or whatever to pitch products, basically. That's basically what it is. And the pitch approach is totally up to them. They can do it on Instagram, they can do videos, they can do YouTube stuff. That's totally fine. And then they can use discount codes that you provide, that you're creating. And when you create a discount code, it's made available to the Amazon influencers if you click that box. And it can be helpful. The question was, is it a double standard? I don't think that it's a double standard, because they're pretty specific about what they're doing, and there's specific rules to comply. I actually think that Amazon is totally fine with influencers and with paid reviews. The problem was so many people were abusing the process that they had to clamp down on it. It's not because Amazon doesn't like paid reviews. The Vine Voice program is all about paid reviews. So that's not the problem. The problem was how much abuse was happening. They weren't just doing 30 at the beginning or using influencers to launch. They were continuing this all of these paid reviews to shore up a bad product. That's what Amazon doesn't like. So launching, I have very rarely seen people get into trouble with a launching program. When they do it afterwards is when there's a problem, because whenever you're basically trying to fix the fact that your product is crap and people don't like it, then Amazon doesn't like that either, because then it seems like you're trying to trick customers into getting the product when it's not actually a product that they would want. That's the concern that Amazon has, not paid reviews or influencers or anything like that. Don't worry about that. That's not actually their concern. Their concern is that customers are being bamboozled, basically. Okay, next question. A hijacker keeps buying my units, hijacks my listing, then returns the units that don't sell a month later. What steps should I take to prevent this from happening? I know that buying my units and selling on my listing is not illegal, but returning this many units is clearly a violation, isn't it? Yes, it can be. You might want to report them under report a violation and see what happens. The team that is responsible for that, they typically will investigate when a buyer has more than 50% returns. If for whatever reason that buyer is keeping a lot of stuff and selling it elsewhere, so if for whatever reason they aren't returning a lot, maybe they're only returning 10%, 15%, then they may not actually be investigated. It takes quite a lot of returns to be investigated by Amazon. So there's really not much that you can do if they're buying your product and selling your product and then returning it. You can report that, because they're not supposed to be doing, that's not a business practice that's really permitted by Amazon. So you can certainly report that and see what happens. As far as what you can do to change it, there's not much that I can think of that you can do other than report it to Amazon. If they go over about 50% returns, then they'll get caught and investigated. But if they don't, if they're keeping it down pretty low, then they can just continuously do this, which is an interesting approach. Okay, last question for today. Do giveaways through Facebook still work to bring you up to page 1 and keep you there? I've read negative posts about giveaways and now I'm confused. Other sellers are saying that giveaways will not help you rank anymore. Can you please advise? From my understanding, the giveaway programs, the ones where you do 500 giveaways with a super URL and then you rank for that keyword, do not work anymore. As of about 3 to 4 months ago, I started hearing chatter in the groups that basically they weren't resulting in the kind of ranking results that they had before. So that's basically the situation, that they must have fixed it with the URL, or they must have fixed it with other elements, but basically that's not a thing anymore. So use advertising, use SEO, so making sure that you keyword stuff, the title and the bullets, and you can do some manipulation of it if you are doing social media and you plant certain keywords into the social media post, like you just plant in someone's mind, but there's no like direct way to manipulate and control it. I don't believe that giveaways were ever a good idea, but it costs you about the same to advertise and grow it the right way than to do the tricksy ways, so you may as well just do it the right way. So the way that is expected by Amazon is to advertise against specific keywords. The keywords that perform well are the ones that you end up ranking for, and so then that helps you rank. So again, advertising and using coupons or discounting the price is the correct way to launch a new product. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you, and I appreciate all of your questions. Please keep them coming. Bye-bye.